And Europe miffed at Obama's decision to skip summit is their headline. Apparently there was an EU-US summit which was due to take place in Madrid in the month of May, and Obama was going to attend, and all of the European diplomats and officials were certain of this. He had given this commitment, his people had given this commitment, and during the Davos summit it emerged that he probably wasn't going to attend after all. Now his people have said, oh, it was never on my agenda, it was never fully confirmed that I was going to come, so this is sort of disagreement as to whether or not it was set in stone. But in any case, there were European officials speculating at Davos as to why this was the case, because they're feeling quite miffed about it all. And one said that it was probably because of the loss of Ted Kennedy's Senate seat in Massachusetts, and it wouldn't be seen as very desirable right now for Obama to be going to quote-unquote glamorous European destinations, which would just give fuel for the Republicans to criticise him for not looking after the problems at home. Also, another speculation on why that might have happened came from Charles Grant in the Centre for European Reform in London. He said the EU needs to realise that no one will court them or have summits with them just because Europe is a nice idea. Europe has to deliver. And Obama has been looking for troop increases in commitments from European countries for troops in Afghanistan, and that hasn't been forthcoming from many countries. So perhaps this is a little message. I'm not going to hang out with you and have glasses of champagne unless you commit to common security interests or things like that. So yeah, apparently what the conclusion in any case by various observers is that Europe will be a little bit offended by this decision. Europe as a person.
Okay, of course, we all are.
Yes, we are Europe. Now, moving to The Independent, I'll hold up the front page. Israeli commander, we wrote the rules of war for Gaza. Now, this is an Independent exclusive. They spoke to or got word from a senior Israeli officer who said that they changed the rules of combat in Gaza. Basically, there is a principle called means and intentions, which means that a suspect has to have an arm and has to show the intention of using the arm before he can be shot or targeted. Okay. In any case, it looks like there was a new policy for the Gaza war, which consisted of zero risk for soldiers. So basically, they put to one side these basic rules of humanitarian law in terms of protecting civilians in order to protect their own soldiers. So goes the story in The Independent this morning, and they speak to one of Israel's most senior human rights lawyers, Michael Sfard, who says if it's true, it's a smoking gun. There would have to be an inquiry. This is to cast aside one of the most basic rules of humanitarian law is just inadmissible.
And that would be another inquiry on top of the Goldstone that's just been going on.
Exactly.
So into that war last year.
So I suppose, it's surprising or unpleasant news coming out in The Independent this morning, if it's true. Now, moving to the Israeli press, in fact, Haaretz is saying Israel is more tolerant of Muslims than burka-obsessed France. And they say France, where no one protests with a woman sunbathing topless on a beach, is now becoming is waging a war in the opposite direction. And this guy who wrote the article says, how can a Western democracy, the symbol of liberty throughout the world, dictate to its inhabitants the degree to which they can dress? So I suppose that is the paradox that a lot of people are latching onto in this debate, which is a much broader debate.
It's a big debate here, absolutely.
Indeed. And it comes back to basic principles in France of secularism and all of that. And he says, he highlights how few women wear the burqa in France, only about 2,000 by some estimations. And he says even though he doesn't give any answers as to how Muslim minorities could be integrated, he says banning the burqa certainly is not the answer to that. And he says that in Israel, really, a country that is not free of discrimination by any account, it appears to be more tolerant than the country of Voltaire when it comes to this particular issue.
Okay.
So, do we have time for one last story?
We do have time, yes.
It's in China Daily, and young net addicts on the rise. A very dramatic headline on their front page. 24 million internet addicts in China, according to the paper. And they talk about internet use having soared by 30% in 2009, and 1 out of 3 of those users were under the age of 19. So they seem to be getting very hot under the collar about it. They say last year governments at all levels sprung into action, shutting down internet cafes, announcing plans to install filtering software on every computer, although I think that could have been motivated as well by just trying to kind of control internet traffic or Google use and all of that. And so they go through what internet addiction is. You have to always want to use the internet, I suppose, that's obvious enough. You have to feel annoyed or depressed if denied internet use, and you have to feel happier in a cyber rather than the real world. So I'm not sure if that's
2 out of 3 for me, not the last one.
You see, this
2 out of 3 for me.
By those standards, we'd all nearly be addicted to the internet.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure how scientifically based that assertion is, but Anyway,
James,
internet
thank you very
addicts in
much.
China.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Emma.
Okay, let's get a recap now of the main international news headlines here on France 24.